Hello chess friends and welcome to Jozarov chess channel and welcome back to the Superbet Rapid and Blitz chess tournament in 2022. So this tournament is really heating up. I'm not sure if you have followed this beautiful tournament so far, but really wild things happened. Meanwhile, Vishy Anand is probably playing one of his best tournaments in his whole career, because Vishy Anand yesterday started with a brilliant performance. He had 3 wins all of his first 3 rounds, and today he had again 2 consecutive wins. So he had 5 wins all of the first 5 rounds, which is really incredible. And then in the 6th round, eventually he played only, I will say only, because of course it's not a huge thing if you play a draw then afterwards, but it was also a beautiful sharp attacking game played by Vishy Anand, in which Vishy sacrificed the rook for the exchange and played really a dynamic attack against young Krzysztof Duda. So in my opinion, you should really watch every game that Vishy Anand has played so far, because every game was simply a beautiful chess game with strategical elements, with decoys, deflections, double attacks, really all of the beautiful elements that we love to see in the game. And of course, I will not cover every of this game. I've sorted out basically the best game from the round 2, and in my opinion, from the round 2, the best game was the game between Levon Aronian and Vishy Anand, in which here Vishy destroyed Levon with the black pieces, which is really also great performance. So be prepared. This is simply a chess from another dimension. Vishy is, as I said, playing simply one of his best tournaments so far. So let's see now the game. E4 here was played by Levon Aronian. We have E5 by Vishy. We have bishop to C4. We have the bishop's opening, and now after knight to F6, we have the so-called Berlin defense against this bishop's opening. So we have D3. Many times out of these structures you can get in Italian game, you can even get some different ideas. You can get really symmetrical stuff and really positional games, but this game will not be positional, although it begins with sort of a positional setup. But after move D3, here Vishy is also developing the bishop on the most active square, of course on the square C5, where it attacks of course the bishop, the pawn on F2. So we have knight to F3, normal development, D6. You see we have a certain symmetry here. The knights are on this squares, the bishops are on this squares, and we have also a symmetrical pawn structure. So many times, as I said, out of the structures, you're playing more positional game, you're battling for the square, you're battling for simple weakness, but this game will transpose really in a wild dynamic game. So after kingside castling, we have also kingside castling by Vishy Anand. We have C3, preparing now the move D4, and we have bishop to B6. So retreating with the bishop, because the bishop is many times an object of the attack after a potential d4 move. So we have knight from b to d2 by Levon Aronian. We have now c6, also preparing maybe the move d5. We have bishop to b3, so we have really now huge symmetry now all over the board. And after move rook to e8, we have also the move rook to e1. So now comes bishop to e6, which is in many times in Italian games, in Ruy Lopez structures, a normal idea. You want to compete, of course, with this powerful bishop. You don't want to tolerate such an active bishop against your weak square on f7. And here Levon Aronian is saying, okay, I will not trade off the bishops immediately, because I want to have a further control of the e4 square. Now you see the bishop on c2 is protecting the e4. Here Levon Aronian is trying to make progress with this normal idea with the pawn breakthrough on d4. So we have here knight from b to d7. We have now this normal idea d4, and now Vishy plays a brilliant move which causes now new dynamics. I think it's a very sharp move. Bishop to g4. In the beginning it doesn't seem that it's such a dangerous move, but it's creating an annoying pin. And you see now the knight on f3 is connected somehow, of course, to the d4 square. We have now already a tension around the d4 square, so now the bishop to g4 is already a battle for the d4 square. And this move Levon Aronian didn't want to tolerate, so that's why he tried to kick away this bishop with h3. We have bishop to h5, g4, and after bishop to g6 now comes d takes e5. And now comes the critical moment, I think, of this game. Many of us, okay, after move knight to e5, here Levon Aronian also took with the move knight to e5. Many of us, I think, would take with the pawn d takes e5, and I think here I would love to now play even more black's position, because okay, we have a symmetrical pawn structure, nothing dramatically is going on here, no one has, I think, a clear advantage here. But when it comes to, I think, weaknesses, structural weaknesses and weak squares in your position, I think white has much more weaknesses. We have to agree there is this f4 weakness, g3, h4, maybe the f3, c4, d3. There are many targets that of course black can attack. Okay, black has also maybe here some kind of of a target, maybe also here on f5. But as I said, in my opinion, white has simply more clear disadvantages in this position. So even in this scenario, I think black would be slightly better. But here Vishy, after move knight to e5, spiced up the position and played now really a dynamic move, rook to e5. And many times you should not do this, expose your rook in the center of the board, because of course the rook can be in the near future an object of white's attack. You can play some ideas of f4, e5, then you can also trap maybe the bishop. For instance, if you play f4, then also you can play a follow-up with f5 and trap the bishop on g6. So this is also a normal idea. So as I said, d takes e5 would be for a bad player like I am, but Vishy is of course playing more dynamic chess. He played here rook to e5, although this move the stock Vishy engine doesn't like, but I like it from a human's perspective because it creates really an unbalanced pawn structure. It creates really new dynamics. After move rook to e5, now comes the crucial mistake that Levon Aronian played. He played knight to c4, and again, I'm sure that 99% of us would play the move knight to c4, attacking simply the rook, and here also attack the pawn on d6. But that was exactly Vishy Anand's trap. He played here really beautiful trap against Levon Aronian. What you should do instead of this move knight to c4, we'll see now why. You have to play king to g2. You have to get out of this pardon me, you have to get out of this tactical mess of the Darko bishop. And then you could maybe prepare this move f4. Then probably black would proceed here with the move d5, and after f4, which would be, I think, the normal idea here for white. Then of course bishop to e4, knight to e4, rook to e4, bishop to e4, and after knight to e4, okay, black is down the exchange but has now a powerful pawn on d5, which is supporting this powerful knight on e4. So this should be an equalish position. Of course white should be slightly better maybe, but still this knight on e4 is powerful piece. Maybe in one particular moment you have to sacrifice your rook back for the knight and then maybe grab the pawn, and probably the game should end in a draw. But okay, here as we said, Levon Aronian played knight to c4, which is now a normal move for everyone. I think this would be a normal move, but this was really a dirty trap that Vishy Anand has prepared here. He played now knight to e4. First he took out the pawn, he's sacrificing the rook, and here Levon Aronian didn't take. If you take knight to e5, then the game is over because you get this turner, knight to f2, you have to move the queen to e2, and now with queen to h4 the game is basically over here for white. Whatever you do, for instance, if you try to cover yourself with the move bishop to e3, the problem is now you get knight to h3, you have to play something like king to g2. We can take out this bishop here on c2, you have to take out the bishop, and then after d takes e5, this is a completely lost position. The king is simply too naked and the game should be over. So even if you try, instead of this move bishop to e3, even if you tried something like knight to g6, let's see this scenario, if you for instance just try to get out of this attack of the pawn, you try maybe knight to g6, then you get here a checkmate, queen to g3, then you have to step back to f1, queen to h3, and then with queen to h1 the game is simply over here for white. So as I said, this is simply not working. What you should do after move knight to e4 that Vishy Anand play, there is only one move that prolongs the game here for white. It's the move bishop to e4, and this is now a normal idea because we have to say the white has lost the pawn in the center of the board, and that's why probably Levon Aronian didn't want to play this line. He didn't want to lose his very important pawn, and then the game which should probably lead into this rook to e4, rook to e4, bishop to e4, and then probably still white is slightly worse because of this bishop pair, and also because of the situation around the king. The king is a little bit naked. We have said also in the beginning that structural weaknesses white has here in front of the king, so this would be probably an unpleasant game here for white to play. So after move knight to e4, here comes knight to b6, and now comes really beautiful tactical shot that Vishy Anand pulled off here. Many of us again would take queen to b6, and then probably you lose the knight here on e4, but here Vishy played a beautiful tactical shot, knight to f2, and this is now a double attack. Of course we have to say it, because first of all it attacks the queen on d1, but it attacks also the rook on e1 that's connected to the queen. So the queen is a little bit overloaded here, and we have said it, the king is a little bit naked. There are simply too many weaknesses. So after move knight to f2, we have queen to d2. If you take, of course, king to f2, then you get this one, queen to h4, you get the check, you have to step back, and now we can take out the rook, and the queen is hanging, and again you face many problems which we should probably take out then afterwards. The knight, the bishop can be taken here on c2, so too many weaknesses here again in white position. So that's why after move knight to f2 we have queen to d2 by Levon Aronian getting out of the range, and again queen to b6. Now it's a different story. You cannot take queen takes f2. You see how dirty really this ideas by Vishy Anand are. He's playing every move in such a beautiful sharp way. He's playing like Mikhail Tal here. After move queen to f2, now of course rook to e1 would be the continuation, and now you have to play something like king to g2. Now we can even take and connect the rooks, and we're up the exchange. White has lost the rook for the bishop, and of course this should be a completely winning endgame then for black. So after move queen to b6, here Levon Aronian tried rook to e5, but now comes of course this discovered check. You can have to play king to g2. Now knight to e5, connecting everything here, and this is game over. The king is naked. We have grabbed the rook back. We have a great control of the center of the board. We have also this extra pawn on d6. We have here a 3 versus 1 situation against 1 pawn on the king side, so it's completely winning endgame here for black. So bishop to g6, h take g6. We have queen to d6, but now queen to b5 here played by Vishy Anand, connecting of course the queen to the knight. We have queen to d1, and now after move knight to d3, b3 was played of course with the idea maybe to play c4 and trap the knight, but this is not working because of queen to d5, and in this position Levon Aronian resigned. So maybe you could try some ideas of king to g3, but then again you get a couple of checks. What you can always do is play queen to e5 for instance, and then just grab the pawn on c3, and this should be enough to win the game. There are no checkmate threats on the 8th rank. You can always escape, so the bishop is paralyzed, the rook is out of game. We can include the rook into the game, so the evaluation for instance is here plus 13 for black, which is really something that you should resign. So great games you see by Vishy Anand. Yesterday it was also a beautiful game. Today he played outstanding 2 winning games. As I said, he played also beautiful drawish game against Jan Krzysztof Duda. Probably even the draw was even better game than this one. Maybe I will cover even the drawish game played by Vishy Anand against Jan Krzysztof Duda, because it was also beautiful piece sacrifice in the beginning. So what to say, Vishy is playing still great immortal chess, really wild stuff. What to say, I wish him all of the best. I wish that Vishy wins this tournament. I think it would be a great thing for the chess community, and that could, I think, motivate us that actually even if you're maybe a little bit older than everyone, still you can perform in such a beautiful way. And it's not maybe a surprise, but it's not, I think, such a huge surprise, because through his career Vishy Anand was always a fast calculator. That's why he was always called the lightning kid. He was always calculating this tough positions in a fast way. So it's not a surprise. This is rapid time format chess player. Of course Vishy Anand can play on his strength, which is of course, as I said, the fast calculation. So congratulations again to Vishy. I wish him all of the best again. If you want to see yesterday's gameplay by Vishy Anand, in which he also destroyed his opponents in a fast way, check out here's the link of our first game that we have analyzed so far from this tournament. And if you want to see maybe the top engines battling it out in also their best chess games, check out my commented chess games played by computer series, with some more games played by Stockfish, Alpha Zero, Lila Zero, and many more. And if you like this content, don't forget to subscribe to my channel. See you soon with some more videos, and chess is the best, of course.